Did he become a dad?
I'll never know if it is my child.
When his ex became a mom?
Plaintiff's claim is that your paternity suit you filed against her was frivolous.
The timing is everything.
You saw her at her house.
It's a block away from where I live. I was there many of times.
Did you have intimate relations with the plaintiff?
Yes, I did. About 9 months before.
Before he was born?
Right.
This is Judge Judy.
Ms. Compton, it is your claim that the defendant filed a frivolous cause of action, which caused you to retain counsel. The cause of action that he filed was for paternity of your son. You say he never showed up for that hearing. It was dismissed, and it was frivolous. The defendant tells a slightly different story, and he said there was real question as to whether or not he was the biological father of your child, and your husband has since died. Is that correct?
Correct.
His case was dismissed with prejudice. You know what that means, sir?
Yes.
And on what date was it dismissed with prejudice?
About July, I think it was.
So your time to appeal has probably expired. You understand that?
Yes.
Well, let's get the story first. Ms. Compton, you and the defendant were in a relationship for a period of time, and the relationship that you had with the defendant was an intimate relationship. So far, correct?
Yes.
And that relationship, according to what I've read, terminated at some point. What month and year did that relationship terminate?
December of '07.
And when did you meet your husband?
I met him after I had moved out in December.
You mean the same month?
Yeah.
When did you and your husband marry?
We married in May of '08.
When was your son born?
September of '09.
Now I'm going to ask you a question. Any time after December of '07, were you and the defendant ever intimate?
Not after I moved out.
Not once.
When I was separated from my husband, we did.
During what period of time were you separated from your husband?
2012.
What month in 2012?
August.
Until when?
We were separated up until the time he passed away.
So you and your husband were actually separated at the time he died?
Yes.
And your son was born in September of '09?
Right.
Is it correct, Mr. Oshakowski, that between the time you and the defendant broke up and she moved out in December of '07 and 2012, after she and her husband separated, that you and Miss Compton did not have any intimate relations?
No, it's not true.
Tell me when you and Miss Compton had intimate relations.
We had, before she got married in 2008, her husband-to-be dropped her off at a hotel where I was at, and
Well, that's 2008. Do you remember what month in 2008?
Well, that one was 2007. 2008, I was out of town, and I came back in town in December, and I was living with my niece, and I had bought presents for her for Christmas and her son.
You bought presents for who and her son?
For Tracy and her son, and...
No. I'm talking about this paternity suit, sir. I'm asking you these questions because plaintiff's claim is that your paternity suit that you filed against her was frivolous. And I'm trying to ascertain whether or not you had a good faith basis to believe that you might be the biological father of her child.
Yes, I was with her probably twice during that time that she would have been pregnant. She actually came and seen me, and when the child was 3 months born, too.
I'm not talking about after the child was born. I'm talking about before the child was born, in the months where the child could have been conceived.
Right.
Did you have intimate relations with the plaintiff?
Yes, I did.
Where and when? Do you remember?
At her house. I gave her presents for her son and that, and it was in December, and I'm not sure exactly the date because this was a while ago, but...
But she wasn't pregnant then?
No, she wasn't pregnant.
The child wasn't born. You're not talking about when the child was born.
No, I'm talking about 9 months before.
Before he was born.
Right.
And you saw her at her house. And at her house is that same house she was living with her husband.
Yes.
Could you describe the house?
It's a trailer. It's a block away from where I live. You can cut through the yards just about and go right to her house. It's got double wide doors in the front that her husband had put up. I was there many of times.
Were you ever there with her husband?
I wasn't there with her husband there.
Only with her?
Correct.
Any of that sound familiar to you, Miss Compton?
No, because my husband and I were together. We were fixing up the place together, and we were just married when I conceived my son. So there's no way he was over there because my husband was at home all the time.
Nah.
He was over at my house after my son was born.